Hey guys, so we just ended off with who is that three-legged creature? Do you have any idea who you think it might be? Think really hard. Who was a three-legged creature already in our story? Let's find out. I stumbled back. Rosie! No, no, no. I was dreaming. It was a trick. Then I remembered what Miss Cabbs had said. She'll be changed. I fell to my knees. Rosie's eyes switched back to red. She sniffed the air next to me. Did she recognize me? Rosie, I mumbled. Her pointed ears pricked. Ah, Pooch scoffed at Akatab. You think your hellhounds can stop me? He looked around at the few demons still standing. Or your pitiful hordes? Zane, Hondo shouted. We all spun to see him in the clearing, waving at the flashlight, pointing his flesh-burning beam. Jazz was right behind him, and they were both wearing red masks like Quinn's. Exatab raised her hand and said some strange words I didn't recognize. The demons changed towards Hondo and Jazz. Black hair grew out of the demons' mouths with a freakish speed. Hondo and Jazz were outnumbered. Why would Hondo be so stupid? Then I realized he wouldn't. No way would my uncle march into a battle without reinforcements. While I was distracted, our Pooch blew a hot breath, creating a barrage carriage of black smoke all around me. No, I screamed. Relaxed for a while. This should be fun to watch, he said. Should we take bets? I'm going with the demons. I rushed towards the smoke bars, thinking I'd passed right through them, but they were strong as iron, and I slammed into them before stumbling back. Dazed, I lifted my spear, hoping it could cut through the spell, but when I launched it at Alpooch, it bounced right off the smoke. Panic clawed my insides. I couldn't let anyone else fight this battle for me. A great wind blew across the hot field, drying, spreading Isatab's flames. Quinn crawled over to me. I wanted to harness the fire, to draw it in, and to use it against Alpooch. But what good would it do for me? First, I didn't know how to control it. Second, if Exatab's fire couldn't kill him, mine surely wouldn't. I might end up torching the whole place, and Brooks and Hondo with it. I couldn't take my eyes off of Hondo, who had climbed into a tree and pointing his deadly red light at the demons below. The riff and the scream as the beams burned them. Alpooch merely leaned against my cage, watching them smile. I really need to get one of those toys. A second later, dozens of red-robed warriors raced from behind the trees. The Spock Striders trained the orphans. So many things were happening at the same exact moment. Shrieks of splits of hot air. The hellhounds growled and gnashed their teeth. Everyone ran at each other like a stampede of elephants. The ground shook, and all the chaos and the hair and the fangs and the screaming. Brooks, now masked, took off running into the meal. Jazz fought off three of the demons while the others clung back, strangling him with his thick band of hands until his eyes bulged out. Brooks aimed her flashlight and burned the demons off Jazz's back. I writhed into the columns of the black smoke. The red warriors hurled right at themselves into the demons' paths, displaying no fear as they reached into their robes. By the time I realized what they were reaching for, their lightning bolts were ready to fly through the air, exploding like fireworks. Now I knew they were all wearing masks. I covered my eyes and waited for the searing moment to come, but it never did. I opened my eyelids, flooding them wildly, and I still could still see. The silver demons screamed, clawing at their faces as their eyes burned into flame. Ixatab raised her hand towards the field, and they were chanting something that Quinn scrambled to her feet and rammed a lightning rod into her spine. Ixatab exploded into the tower of white fire. Now, Quinn yelled at me. The magic will only hold her for a few seconds. At that same moment, Brooks morphed into a hawk. I guess she could do it because Ixatab was out of commission, at least temporarily. Quinn stepped back, her eyes wide as she watched her sister fly, the god of death. Then Quinn dove between Alpooch and Brooks. With a flicker of the wrist, he sent them both hurtling to the walls of flame. Brooks! I shook the smoke bars. Alpooch turned to me and smiled, taking a deep breath. I just love the smell of war and death. Do you smell the sweetness? Hated burned inside of me. Let me out, you disgusting cockroach. Don't judge. It was the only insult I could think of in the moment. And you'll what? Kill me with your lightning spear? He nodded once and then smoked the prison disappear. I didn't hesitate. I launched the spear at Alpooch. It rocketed towards him, a blazing light Right before it, he hit and vanished. It spun himself behind me, smiling. He twisted around me, gripped the back of my neck, drawing blood with his nails. So much for my dino spear, which, by the way, was now lying on the ground like a dead snake. The world spun, colors morphed into each other, everything turned into a blur of amber light. In the center of it all, tall towers with mist rose from the ground, burning, one after the other. Let's stick around a bit, Godborn. This is gonna be fun, Alpooch said, gripping me tighter. Fun. This was not fun. Five figures walked through the fire. I recognized Matt immediately. Then I have to admit, I was glad to see him. He was more spiffed up than I had seen him last, wearing a dark blue pinstripe suit and a white button down shirt. No tie. Next to him was a burly, heavy dude with a long beard and black circles in his eyes. He wore a leather jacket, tattered jeans, motorcycle boots, and the sour expression like someone had woken him up from a long nap. The other three figures stood erect. My still in shock mind realized slowly that if Matt was here, then it meant, holy smokes, these were the Maya gods. Chapter 40. My relief turned into misery when I remembered that the gods also wanted Alpooch's head. Since I was, well, paralyzed, I wasn't exactly in a position to do the deed myself, and we all know what that meant. I was headed to the Soldier of Death boot camp. To be honest, I don't even know why I have to write the next part, since the gods already know what's going to happen. Whatever. Alpooch gripped me harder and began to chuckle. Malakalaba akalaba aba. Buenas noches, old friends. The council is all back together. How chummy. So good to see you. And Ikawasa, you're looking so well these days. Don't look a day over 2,000. Straight, dark bangs framed the eyes that belonged to the goddess of chocolate, who actually didn't look a day over like 30. She was small and willowy and walked more graceful than the others. This fact that made her even more obvious that her brown Catwoman bodysuit, her brown skin glistened. She narrowed her eyes, and you're smelling as foul as ever, Alpooch. The burly dude looked over me and then said to Alpooch, we end this tonight. You mean send me back to prison, Nakan? Alpooch said with his faking shudder. So blurry, motorcycle dude was the god of war. Kind of cliche, if you ask me. Matt shook his head. The plan is to kill you, actually. At about this time, Spockstrider's army retreated into the jungle, and Ixatab was released from the bolts of power. She shook her head, looked around, and adjusted her cape. Someone's going to pay for that, she said with her gritted teeth. My eyes roved over the trees where I spotted Jazz and Hondo holding up not 20 yards away. Were Brooks and Quinn okay? Rosie and the other hounds stood behind Ixatab, but Rosie kept looking in my direction. Had she remembered me? Alpooch grunted. Did you think all I'd come here to do is a little playground unprepared? That I'd just walk into your clumsy trap? Is that what you thought this was? A trap with me as the bait? I searched for the remaining two guards' faces, wondering one of them was Huracan. I didn't know what his human form looked like. This guy was half my size with spiky bleached hair, khakis, starched blue button-down shirt, and definitely not mom's type. That left me on one on the far end who wouldn't take his eyes off of me. He had a darkish, disheveled hair, looked like he hadn't been shaved in about 3 days, and was so stiff he could have been made of stone. He wore a dark t-shirt, dark pants, a leather band on his wrist. Let the boy fight him, he said coldly. Yeah, so pretty much stole my breath. Nice to see you too, Dad. Khaki Dude ran his hand through his hair and then said, why don't we let a mere boy fight our greatest enemy? Let's end this, Huracan. Isn't this why you said we had to come here? Back to this place, Ikaswa said, throwing her hands on her hips. Matt and Dad exchanged glances. What were they up to? He's not a mere boy, Matt said. With a twisted smile, Ixatab stepped forward. Huracan silenced her with a glare. He came closer, still staring at me. He prophesied one. He released Alpooch. A hush fell over the jungle. Ikaswa, burly dude, and khaki guy, who I guess was Alam, god of sky, gasp. Those were the lines Ikawas said, told by. She stopped herself. Nakan popped his knuckles. Yeah, well, that would make him a god. And that's not possible unless his face turned red and he thought I thought smoke might start coming out of his ears. Which idiot god broke the sacred oath? He roared. The silence was so loud, my ears were starting to ring. A brief moment in the trees caught my attention, and I saw Jazz muscling Hondo, covering his mouth and pinning him to the place. No, Hondo, I thought. This isn't your fight. You can't win. Jazz was right to lock him down. Ooh, Alpooch said, this is getting good. Do tell us, Huracan, who broke the sacred oath? Huracan lifted his chin and clenched his jaw. Zane Aspinall is my son, the son of wind, storm, and fires. He has the blood of a creator and a destroyer, and I claim him as my own. My heart skipped so hard I forgot about Alpooch's nails digging into me. I forgot about the quest and becoming the soldier of death. And I was the son of the wind and the storms and fire. Holy smokes, that sounded so tough. Huracan's voice found me. By claiming you here in the old world, before the council, I give you full powers. Full powers. Wait, is that what Matt meant? I said you would control the fire eventually. Today is the day. But wait, why now? You need to be on sacred ground, and I had to claim you in front of the council. It's the only way for you to defeat Alpooch. Do you accept the powers? What kind of trick question was that? Zane! Okay, yes. What happened next is hard to explain, even to imagine, for humans at least. Maybe for you gods too. The heat exploded inside of me and raced like lava through my muscles, down my nerves, into my bones. The horrible pain made me want to scream, to fall to the floor and curl up in a ball. But I was still paralyzed by Alpooch's grip, so no one could see me torment. Ixatab shifted her cape back and forth impatiently. Then she shrieked, nothing happened! Alpooch laughed and said to Huracan, I didn't think you had it in you, old friend. Did you think you could give up your own freedom for a worthless human? And it was all for nothing? Look at the boy didn't change. He has no dominant powers. Maybe your blood isn't so potent. Huracan moved his glare. He tried to come closer, but couldn't before the red snakes curled around his ankles and wrists to form chains shackling him. With a sigh, Matt shook his head and said to him, you know the consequences. Huracan didn't flinch. You are sentenced by the old world laws, Matt said to Huracan. I could tell. The look on Matt's face is that his heart wasn't in his words. He was going through the motions because he had to. But why not stand up to the other gods? Why was he trying to protect Pacific? Alam said, what about the boy? The law is the law. He has to die. Iskasquad nodded in agreement, as did Nakan. If he is going to die anyways, Ixatab said, then let us use him. Let us see if he could defeat Alpooch. No sense in all of us getting our hands dirty if we don't have to. Huracan said coolly, let him fight. Good idea, Alpooch agreed. He wins, we can all go home. I win, we can prepare for the war. Then with a shrug, he added, what a beautiful irony, Huracan. A war with your son fighting at my side. Huracan's eyes changed from gold to black as he searched my face. You know what to do. No, I don't know what to do. And in case you haven't noticed, I'm sort of paralyzed right now. Find the source. No more words were spoken. Instead, there were images. Had Huracan put in my mind, or had I conjured up? I couldn't move. I couldn't fight. I couldn't do anything. But I had the jade. I understood what I had to do. As Alpooch's grip tightened around my neck, I heard a low growl behind us. Then, when Alpooch turned, Rosie released a mouthful of fire. I drew it to me as I envisioned the empty. Oh, we're almost done. This is getting so good. We'll be back soon.